Welcome on board the news track. I'm Rahul Kamal. On the show this evening, I'll be joined by members of the government's new National Task Force for dealing with the oxygen supply crisis and the COVID case management. And what we do with them is talk about how to manage the COVID caseload from here. Because on the new COVID heat map, you can see how from the 8th of March, where you've got 599 districts with less than 10 cases. India in mid-April became orange, and now from the latest data available, more than 501 districts have 100 plus cases. 75 districts have less than 10 cases. 159 districts have 10 to 100 cases. But the maximum number of districts now fall in the red category. And that is a huge concern because the virus, which started out in the big cities, is now well and truly entrenched and running through India's villages. How should we deal with this? We'll focus on that on the news track.
No beds, drips hung from trees, no trained doctors. After wreaking havoc in cities, coronavirus ravages rural India. Mega rural COVID spike in last 15 days. Rural India pays for chronic neglect. Top focus on news track.
What you have in our country is a situation where the virus is not just spreading to the south, it's also spreading into rural areas, and as a result of which the hotspots are now continuing to change. So if I go by a state-by-state trajectory model, in Maharashtra, while this green line represents Maharashtra, the total number of cases have started coming down over the last few days. In a state like Karnataka, represented here by this light blue line, the hockey stick is just going straight through the roof, as is the case in Kerala and in West Bengal. So these are the problem areas where the number of cases is shooting up. But what's also happened is that while the cities got completely overrun, you can't even begin to imagine what's happening in rural areas where, for example, people are being sent out into the field because there is no place to isolate. So they're told, go sit under a tree because there's oxygen there and you can be in isolation. Now, those kind of things which you'd find very difficult to imagine, even if you've been through the COVID virus in Mumbai or Delhi, are now happening in rural areas. So a lot of our reporters who've been traveling across the country collaborated to file our lead story tonight.
Hanging on to life. A desperate struggle for survival in the blind spots of rural India. Patients with flu symptoms turned to informal caregivers in this rural belt of Madhya Pradesh last week. When the new surge has brought top hospitals in major cities on the brink of collapse, these images illustrate the plight of Indian villages. No testing, no beds, no trained doctors and nurses. Drips hung down from trees, hooked to patients lying on the ground below. Local authorities crack down on quacks.
ये शासन के निर्देशानुसार अपन निजी चिकित्सकों पर या जो झोला छाप जो बिना डिग्री के बिना किसी अनुभव के इलाज कर रहे हैं गाँव में, इनके ऊपर कार्रवाई की गई थी कल और इनको समझाई दी गई कि लोगों का सही सलाह दें ताकि अस्पताल जाकर के लोग अपने जांच कराएं। जिनको सर्दी खांसी बुखार है, सांस लेने में तकलीफ है, ऐसे मरीजों को अस्पताल भेजें और यहाँ पे जब जांच हो जाए उसके बाद अगर नेगेटिव आता है तो फिर इनकी जांच कराएं।
But the country's rural healthcare system is itself a victim of chronic neglect. Official data shows cities account for 2/3 of hospital beds when villages are home to nearly 70% of the country's population. Tested positive, this farmer, Ashish Kumar, quarantined himself on his fields in Bagpat. He chose his farmland for isolation because health centers around are in a pretty bad shape.
हॉस्पिटल जाने से हमें लगता है डर हमने 27 तारीख में अपना कोरोना की रिपोर्ट कराई थी, जो कि 30 तारीख में हमारी रिपोर्ट पॉजिटिव आई। हम अपने खेत में ही यहाँ आकर 12 पर आइसोलेट हो गए। हमें हॉस्पिटल जाने से डर लगता है।
When he showed symptoms of COVID-19, this villager isolated himself in a brick kiln surrounded by a forest in Muzaffarnagar district.
15 दिन से ओट डालने के बाद से ही बुखार आ गया था और बड़ी हालत ख़राब हो गई। डॉक्टर ने भर्ती के लिए कहा तो मैं अपने बच्चे था आ गया और बस एक आंध में यही पड़ा, यही खाना पीना, यही रहना करा।
A heart-wrenching image of the stigma COVID patients find themselves in. A villager in Srikakulam district became unwanted after he tested positive. Shunned by fellow villagers, the patient died in front of his wife and daughter. This young man spent 3 days under a tree when he came to know of infection. Villagers refused him entry. Health authorities took him to the hospital only after his video sitting under a tree went viral. A high cost for low priorities to health in the hinterlands. Bureau Report, India Today.
We have with us on the news track members of the government's National Task Force set up by the Supreme Court to ensure that India now makes the right moves in dealing with the coronavirus. Before I go across to our guests for this broadcast, I want to give you a sense of where we are and the challenges as they're evolving. First and foremost, look at the state that's now number 1 in the most impacted case list is Karnataka with 39,000 cases. It's overtaken Maharashtra, which has been India's most COVID-ravaged state for the last several weeks. After that, you've got Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So very clearly, the coronavirus, which started out, the second wave, it started out in Maharashtra and Gujarat, then moved to Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar has now come to the south, and that remains one of the principal challenges we need to deal with. Then there is the number of deaths happening, where again states like Karnataka are currently topping the list. So in Maharashtra things are getting better. In Delhi as well, things are beginning possibly to show signs of improvement, whereas it's in the south that things are at this moment hugely problematic. On that note, I want to go across to our guests who are joining us on this broadcast, because if you see this curve, what's very clear is that India is still in a dangerous zone where the number of cases being reported still hugely problematic. You know, because in Karnataka, this is the yellow line that represents Karnataka, which is the number of confirmed cases. It's seeing a hockey stick-like increase at the end, a hockey stick-like increase being seen in a state like Kerala as well, where essentially what we saw in Maharashtra and later in Delhi now being replicated in states like Tamil Nadu as well. Will they be able to deal better? What is it that they need to do to try and understand some of these issues? I want to begin by introducing Dr. Soumitra Rawat, member of the National Task Force, chairman and head of the Department of Surgical Gastroenterology and Liver Transplant at the Sir Ganga Ram Hospital. Dr. D.S. Rana, member of the National Task Force that's been constituted by the Supreme Court. Also, he's the chairperson of the Board of Management at the Gangaram Hospital. We have with us on this broadcast Dr. Maninder Agarwal, professor at IIT Kanpur, member of the National COVID-19 Supermodel Committee. And last but not least, Dr. S.K. Sareen, another member of the government's National Task Force, senior professor and the head of the Department of Hepatology. He's joining us on this broadcast as well. Let me go across first to Dr. Soumitra Rawat on what is it that you believe we need to do to try and deal with the coronavirus, which at this moment seems to be spreading most in the southern states.
I think the key policy initiative at the moment is the oxygen supply, Rahul, so that it's available and distributed to the last mile, so that it goes to the patient, because you have seen in last 1 week or about a week back, quite a few hospitals in Delhi, they were crying for oxygen, and they were saying there is just 2 hours of oxygen left or 4 hours of oxygen left. So we at National Task Force, we want to make sure it's a rational and equitable distribution of oxygen. And obviously, we need to ramp up the oxygen generation plant. We need to increase the oxygen concentrator and oxygen cylinder. As you have seen that, a lot of them are getting imported from, overseas. And also we need to look at how to reduce the oxygen amount by, having it optimally used, so that patient whose oxygen saturation is more than 95%, we will try to convince them that, they don't need any oxygen, because there is a panic there all over. So we need to make sure that we take care of that panic also. And we need to reduce the number of patients. And as you have seen, where there is a lockdown in Maharashtra and Delhi, numbers are slowly coming down. And obviously numbers are increasing in other states. So we need to go on a war footing in that state as well.
Okay, Dr. Rana, it almost seems as if the same trajectory that first was witnessed in Maharashtra, then in Delhi, is now heading down south. Do you think the southern states also will be as badly ravaged, or on account of better possible healthcare infrastructure, they'll be able to deal better with the virus than Delhi has been able to? Plus, people have now seen just how transmissible this virus is.
I am very sure that learning from the experiences and actions from Maharashtra and Delhi, they will be able to deal this situation better. And now actually, in fact, a lot of infrastructure facility, and rightly so, that right now one of the most burning issues was of oxygen supply. Oxygen supply has been almost streamlined, and I'm very sure that they must be getting oxygen properly. So they should be able to fight it out, and eventually they will be also winner, and they will also start seeing decline in cases.
Okay, Professor Maninder Agarwal, as somebody who's been doing a lot of the supermodeling for the government, what's your assessment of what is most likely to happen in the south? Will we see a virtual repeat of what's already happened in Maharashtra and in Delhi, or do you think they'll be able to deal better with the virus because they have the experience of Delhi and Maharashtra before them?
That's a question I don't think I am qualified to answer. I can only say what trajectories I can see about the pandemic in these states. Whether they will be able to handle it better or not is for the experts or other experts in this committee, this group today, who they know better about it. So what I can comment is that Karnataka seems to be near its peak. So if the trajectory holds the ground, which is what our model is predicting, so there may not be too much increase yet to happen in Karnataka. On the other hand, Tamil Nadu is still likely to see increase over next week or two. So there needs to be more care and preparation that should be done.
Can you give us some more details about why is it that you appear confident that Karnataka it's near its peak, whereas in Kerala and Tamil Nadu the number of cases could continue to increase for a few days?
It's just the model. We have a model, and the model basically learns from the past data about the current value of parameters. And once the parameter values stabilize, then it is able to make a reasonably accurate prediction for the future. Of course, those predictions also hold as long as parameter values remain the same. When there is a lockdown or some other intervention, then the parameter values change, and then the trajectory also changes. So what I'm predicting is assuming what the current parameter values are. If they continue to be the same, then this is what is going to happen.
So the one challenge is that the COVID pandemic is heading south. We've spent some time talking about that. The other thing that seems to be happening, unfortunately, is that it's really now showing up in a big way in the rural parts of India. And we saw that story from the bordering areas of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, how you had literally hundreds of dead bodies floating in the Ganga for various reasons. A, because now wood is in short supply, cost of wood has gone up, and in any case, Jal Samadhi, which is to let the body flow into the river, is something which is a part of the customs of that area. But the number of bodies that are now ending up in the river has just skyrocketed, leading to a big political fight between the states of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh over who's responsible for this.
Horrific images of dead bodies bloated in various stages of decay, flooding the ghat of Ganga in Buxar's Chausa block. Close to 40 to 50 bodies piled up near the Mahadev Ghat. The dead bodies of alleged COVID victims are haunting the villagers, who have now taken it upon themselves to cremate them.
तो आपदा से पहले एक आध लाश प्रवाह हो जाती थी, लेकिन इस समय तो लाश को जलाया जाता है सर। हाँ, अब तो हम लोग खुद ही बरी देते हैं कि नहीं, लाश को जलाइए। उत्तर प्रदेश से बह कर लाश जो है ना, बीरपुर से और गहमर से और बारे से लाश कुल बह कर आती है।
It's not just Bihar. Just days ago, similar scenes were witnessed in Hamirpur, Uttar Pradesh. And villagers in Buxar too are stumped by the sudden increase in the number of dead bodies that are found floating in the river these days.
चौसा शमशान घाट की स्थिति बहुत दयनीय है। इससे संक्रमित लाशें बहुत 200 या 300 के आसपास होगी। इसमें चारों तरफ से भयभीत सब लोग हैं, संक्रमित होने का संभावना है। जिला प्रशासन कुछ नहीं संज्ञान लिया है।
आए थे साहब,
सीओ साहब आए थे और ऊपर से देख कर चले गए।
क्या बोले?
बोले कि सफाई के लिए 500 रुपये देंगे, इसके बाद चले गए।
It is still not clear where these suspected COVID-infected dead bodies were dumped into the river in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. Buxar local administration has ordered an investigation.
ऑब्जर्वेशन ये है कि जो बॉडी जो है वो फ्लोट होकर आ रहा है और जो है वो इकट्ठा जो है हम लोगों के यहाँ हो रहा है। जो बॉडी देख के लग रहा है कम से कम जो है वो 4 से 5 दिन का वो ये है, तो इससे स्पष्ट है कि जो बॉडी है वो बक्सर का नहीं है।
As COVID death toll mounts, crematoriums and burial grounds continue to be overburdened, and locals are being forced to immerse bodies into holy rivers. While these decomposing bodies are a haunting reminder of India's COVID crisis, there is also a threat of groundwater table being contaminated and locals being exposed to a much bigger risk. With Sujit Jain, Patna, Bureau Report, India Today.
So how do you deal with the pandemic in rural India, which simply doesn't have the healthcare infrastructure to be able to deal with this surge? Even countries like the United States, in Europe, countries were caught completely off guard and their capacities were overrun because of the virus. We couldn't deal with the virus in the cities of Mumbai and Delhi. How will the small towns of the hinterlands of India deal with the virus? What are your recommendations specifically, Professor Soumitra Rawat? What do you think, Dr. Rawat, should be done to try and ensure that the death and devastation that the virus causes in the hinterlands of India is minimized to the extent possible?
I think that's a very good question, and I think what government has done recently is they have given 8,000 crore through the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, so that the money goes to the villages and they can set up and they can start, because there is some infrastructure there, because in every village there is a Anganwadi worker, and so once the money flows there, at least the mild cases can be taken care of. And obviously every district there has to be set up of the similar to war footing, so the mild cases can be treated easily in the villages, and for the severe cases they need to move it to the district level. So the policy needs to be made in every district and at the level of every subdivisional level, so that we can ramp up our infrastructure, and we need to make sure that all patients are taken care of.
No, but that's much easier said than done, Dr. Sarin, because we saw even in a city like Delhi, which has higher healthcare infrastructure of a better quality than anywhere else, we were simply unable to deal with the caseload. Now, when the virus spreads to the hinterlands, from where we've seen shocking stories of ambulances with no drivers or ambulances that are just standing in a parking lot. We've seen ICUs without any doctors because there's no medical staff and doctors over there. How do you think at this point in time we should be trying to limit the damage caused by the virus that's now spread to India's villages?
Thank you, Rahul, for this very important question, and I wish we had simple answers, so please allow me time to elaborate. First, the people have to understand that flu of this kind was never seen, but don't get panicked. Up to an oxygen level which you have, let's say 93, 92, you can manage. But yes, if the fever is persisting despite paracetamol or other drugs, then there is a cause of concern. And as of comorbidities, then there should be. But try and see that you make arrangements nearby. Don't rush to major hospitals. Second, remember that in this situation, we have to manage things and be far-sighted. So have your doctor's prescriptions and others be ready in case you need, and the drugs available in case you have a sick person. And prevent transmission in the family, which if you are living in the same room, the transmission can be 5 to 8 times more. Now coming to vaccination, which is the huge need of the hour, I must say we are doing remarkably well the way we have done. We were supposed to vaccinate 30 crores till July, but we might be able to do much more, and I hope the vaccines will become available. Few things about vaccination which may help us and the country. One of them could be that, yes, those who got exposed may not really be the priority for vaccination. Those who have never been exposed and are in the age range of 45 and above should get priority for vaccination. That could be one area where you can say maybe 21 million have been infected. Now the crisis that you are saying that, no ambulance, no drivers, I think people are more scared. If you have your mask properly worn, it has gone. And if you are worried, you have a double mask on this. If you have 2 masks, your best shield is there. And if you are working, let's say with a driver, you're working in an area where you have to carry people, then certainly if you wear double mask and you have gloves, you are very well protected. So if you have your guards up, you can do and should do all the work.
No, but all of what you're saying is in a very, ideal context. Our reporters who are traveling in the villages of India are reporting back saying people don't want to get vaccinated because they have no idea what this is. We've got bodies being thrown into the river, hundreds of them into the Ganga near the bordering areas of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. This is the reality of what we are dealing with. And if all of what you're saying couldn't be effectively implemented in the cities where people understand what you're saying, in the villages they won't have access to people like you. They wouldn't, in many cases, be watching it on television, most definitely not in India Today TV. And therefore, you have a situation where people are just falling ill, not adequately getting tested, and the disease is running its course without any availability of healthcare.
Yeah, Kawal, you're very, very hard-hitting and clear on that. I must admit, my answers is not so clear for the people, but yes, I think instead of other types of advertisements in newspapers, we should have a regular advertisement in Hindi in simple language for the people to understand. And also on news media, there should be an hour, 5 minutes in an hour, which the media can devote to just simple messaging, written typed messages. That is a very great need. Current infection rates will continue. The mortalities will be unless we have a decline. Our current aim should be that how do we prevent deaths, which is not easy, and preventing it to go to the villages. It's a huge challenge. Education is the best way. There is no drug available and mass vaccination is the only way. But be careful, and we have to face the realities of this.
Dr. Rana, do you have specific suggestions? Because all of what Dr. Sareen is saying, you can't argue with. But if we couldn't ensure COVID-appropriate behavior in Delhi and in Mumbai, there's a fat chance that in some small village where there was this one report that I was seeing, the idea of an isolation was to send somebody into the fields, put him under a tree, ki yahan ki hawa khao, oxygen bhi tumhe mil rahi hai, you're out in the field because there is no isolation ward over there. There's no space to isolate, everybody is living in small huts.
Rahul, all what my previous friends told, it is easier said than done, that which you concluded. It is not so easy. I think sitting in the cities, major cities, we must understand the rural population. Our 70% people are living in rural India, and they are not having any medical facility. Virtually, if this outbreaks, the debate has broken in Delhi or Bombay. And as far as educating them is concerned, I know I belong to a village in Himachal Pradesh, and people are quite aware. They listen to television, everything. You can educate them. But the question is how to prevent. If there is an outbreak of the corona like it happened in Delhi, it will be really a very, very big challenge, But I feel that we must, we probably will have it at village level. We should try to prevent it. But if it happens, then how to deal with it? We have to really open something like COVID care centers in the primary center or sub-centers, and oxygen concentrators which are being put in the cities, they should be all moved to rural India. Right now it is not possible to fill up cylinders there. It is not possible to get them liquid oxygen. Neither they have got arrangement there, I know Himachal Pradesh, where I belong to, the state of health, if you just, whenever you rate them, it is probably number 2 or number 1 in the country. But the reality is that at village level and even district hospital, today I am transporting I'm bringing my brother-in-law from Hamirpur to Delhi, because even Hamirpur Medical College is not having enough facility to treat the patient beyond 10 to 15 liters oxygen, So those are ground reality we must know, and this is a very, very big challenge. People, those who live in villages, those who are staying in villages, those who are going to villages, they know how it is. People, those who are sitting in the cities, most of them do not know anything about the rural India. And we are all the time talking of Delhi and Bombay, even where we are not able to face the problem. We could not really. We saw the very, very heartbroken situation, pathetic situation in Delhi, and to some extent Bombay also. But I only hope that the same wave doesn't spread to rural India.
Professor
Otherwise,
Maninder
that will
Agarwal,
be
what
very, very
are
big
your
challenge.
models saying
And what you
about
must say.
the hinterlands? Because in the way that I see it as a layperson, the concentration of population isn't as much in the villages as it is in the cities, which means that the possibility of spread, because the universe is lesser, the possibility of spread is lesser, but the healthcare infrastructure is far worse. In the cities, it's bad enough, but in the villages, it's almost non-existent. What are you predicting about the spread of the virus in the villages? You're on mute, sir.
Sorry. We have not looked at all the districts of the country. However, for several districts which are primarily consisting of villages in Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Haryana, we have done the simulations. And what we have found is, at least in these, wherever we did the simulations, most of these village-centric districts are nearing either at the peak or have gone past the peak. So that, in a sense, is there is some bit of comforting news there that things won't get much worse. However, it is still not good, because when things are at the peak or near about that, that means the situation is the worst possible. And perhaps that is being reflected by these stories that you are alluding to. The one point that you mentioned is very, very important, that since villages are not so densely populated, also the fact that their people mostly live in the open. The one thing that you've mentioned, that they're isolated by sending somebody to the field, which actually may not be a bad idea, away from everyone, in the open air, in the sunlight. And sunlight is believed to be a very good, and in a sense, it certainly reduces the virus activity. So these are the things that perhaps can help things in villages not to create a situation which is disastrous.
Okay, I want to show you now this report filed by our colleagues in different parts of the country.